right, thrilled now to be joined by former senior advisor to President Trump, Christian Whitten. Christian, thanks for coming on here. Huge week here internationally as well as at home in the U.S. I want to start with this story about NATO chief Mark Rutte, who created headlines when he referred to President Trump as Daddy, when he was talking about Trump's ability to separate those squabbling parties in the Middle East. But now Trump was asked about this moment at the NATO summit, and I rather enjoyed this bit of the conference and his answer. Take a look here at Marco Rubio's reaction when the president was asked about what Rutte said.
Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you Daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Rubio loved this, and now the Trump team has even released official daddy merchandise here. I think a lot of people missed the point, though, Christian, about the comments, but I reckon, though, I want to ask you about the political move behind it to turn this into a cultural moment when he was getting criticized for it.
Yeah, the media will try anything like that. It does make NATO look a little bit weak. I know this. I come from the mean streets of Oyster Bay, Long Island, across Long Island Sound from where AOC came in Westchester. So, you know, now Trump has gone into two summits, the G7 and now NATO, and just dominated them. And really, the participants in both wanted, their highest aspiration was for nothing to happen and to, in fact, be obsequious to Trump. And it seemed to be the case in both instances. You know, what came out of the NATO conference was a supposed commitment. It's a little squishy to spend 5% of their GDP on defense. I don't think anyone really expects the Europeans to live up to that. But yeah, it seems like the Europeans were trying to make this into some, or excuse me, the press was trying to make this into something embarrassing for Trump, and he turned it around, and Rubio got a kick out of it.
Well, yeah, Rubio did get a kick out of it, but I think also just that point about the 5% GDP. As you say, it's aspirational. It's very high, but it brings up another question, too. Earlier today, Carolyn Levitt talked about other Asian allies also having to raise their game. Here in Australia, we're having a big debate about defense spending, and we only spend about 2%. Do you think Donald Trump will be annoyed at Australia's low defense spending commitments, particularly in light of the AUKUS alliance and our other partnerships through Five Eyes and other agreements?
Probably. I can't think of any country where Trump has really congratulated them on having an adequate level of spending. Even Israel, which has a significant percentage of GDP, he hasn't really said that's sufficient. So I don't think I just can't think of any country where he says it's enough. Japan is in the process of doubling its defense budget. Now it's going from a low point, 1% of GDP, although it's a big GDP, up to 2%. That'll be doubling over some years. You know, there's some, I think, criticism. I think, you know, AUKUS is good, seen positively in some precincts of the Pentagon, but the Pentagon also is thinking in terms of fielding forces more rapidly. AUKUS, especially the submarines, are a long time coming in the future. I think Taiwan in particular will be criticized because even though they've talked about increasing their spending, they're actually decreasing their defense spending. So I think you know, he's focused a lot on NATO in the Middle East. When it comes to the Pacific, he hasn't hammered allies yet, but you know what's coming over the horizon with APEC or trips to the region.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, listen, I want to go back to that, you know, tighter stuff in domestic politics here, particularly around New York now. And I spoke earlier in the program about Zohran Mamdani's primary win in New York having wider effects. One thing that I've seen now are reports suggesting that Mamdani's campaign success in the primaries could actually encourage Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, God help us all, to run for the presidency in 2028. Now, she, of course, is a big fan of this sort of democratic socialism. Could you see this happening? And what's your broader take on, are the Democrats really realigning towards this kind of, you know, hard left, millennial, Gen Z, radical progressivism?
it seems to be going in that direction, and AOC, I think, is going to do that unless there's something else that she can take, and we're sort of running out of time. She would like to have Chuck Schumer's job. He is senator from New York and the Democrat leader, previously the majority leader in the Senate, and represents essentially the old guard, even though he's pretty darn liberal and pretty darn left. It's not sufficient for AOC. So I think the Democrats are in full let's go nuts mode. This is sort of like 1984 or 1988, where instead of saying, there's this guy, Ronald Reagan, who's very popular, maybe we should moderate, maybe we should figure out how to talk to working people, the middle class, they instead went with kind of nutty left-wing ideologues, cutting off their nose to spite their face, and they seem to be in that mode.
Fair enough. Hey, listen, before you go, I also want to play a bit of backpedaling from CNN. Now, we've spoken about the way the media basically wants Donald Trump to fail, wants America to fail. And now look at how they've been backpedaling about how they've been reporting on the strikes in Iran. Have a look at Brian Stelter here.
There's so much more reporting to do on this topic. This is a very complex matter, even though Trump tried to make it sound simple on Saturday night. It's really important to note what CNN did not report. CNN did not report that this mission was a failure. Far from it. It may have turned out to be a tremendous success. We just don't know all the facts yet, and neither does the U.S. government.
Christian, we didn't do it. We didn't say that. We didn't really try and, portray the whole thing as a fail. This is hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah, what CNN did was speak through a bunch of unnamed palace eunuchs in the intelligence bureaucracy who want to undermine what Trump has done and decided to do, and came out with the phony estimate that we hadn't done what was obviously done. And obviously the centrifuges at Natanz and Fordo are history. This story that the uranium stockpiles were trucked away. There's no way Israel, with its intelligence capabilities far better than ours, inside Iran would have let that happen or would have let that escape notice. So CNN, again, caught being either voluntarily or involuntarily used by portions of the deep state just because they are just enraged. And no matter how low their ratings go or how much they alienate what was left of people who just wanted straight up news, which they haven't delivered a long time, they've gone a long way down, and probably are afraid of getting sued.
Probably right there. Christian Whitten, thank you so much for your time. As always, great insights.